Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with Winners and Whiners Radio coming to you with the Friday edition. How are you, man? We're ready for the weekend, and I know somebody that's also ready for the weekend. He is my co-host and partner. He is the senior handicapper at WinnersandWhiners.com. He is Scott Reichel. What's up, bud?
Nothing much. Had a full evening of relaxation and watching my teams lose in every sport imaginable besides baseball. And that was the one I cared the least about.
Bad night to be a Long Islander up there, my friend. I'm so sorry. The Islanders just couldn't get anything going as far as the hockey game goes, and your Nets never really could get anything going as far as the basketball game goes. So, well, congratulations on your decision not to go to the game.
I did not go to the game, and I also ended up having Bucks first half. So I had a pretty nice day. My team's lost. I won. So whatever that means for you.
Well, it means a lot to me, Scott. And you know, the thing is, you always feel good about those games because other than spending, I don't know, what were you looking at? $300, $400 for the
give or take. Yeah.
So other than being out that, you're not only not out that, you're in money. So that's a good thing. That's why gambling is the greatest thing ever, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Not buying it?
It has its perks, I'll tell you that much.
It does. You could end up working on the staff for an NBA team, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So we're quick reminder, everybody, you are listening to Winners and Whiners. No, not Rhiners. You're listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour, Scott, and
we'll give you the winners.
We'll give you the winners. That's it. It's just that easy. That's all we ask. Just an hour of your time. Tell your friends, of course. And you might ask yourself, what is Winners and Whiners? Well, WinnersandWhiners.com quite simply is the #1 site in the world for predictive sports analysis. Each day, people from over 150 countries stop by WinnersandWhiners.com to check out the latest information, be it weather, injuries, lineup updates, whatever it is. They only get that last-minute information, and no better spot to get it than WinnersandWhiners.com. Full previews and predictions on every single game. And best of all, it is always free. So, Scott, another quick week, man. It's Friday already. Can't believe it. Got a lot going on. And, of course, I know that you had a good day. I had a decent day. But there were some people, Scott, that weren't quite so lucky. These are the people that kind of took it in the shorts, if you will. Nothing you can do when that game goes south. You thought you had a winner, and then you didn't. Nothing to do except tear up that ticket and call the cops. All right, Scotty, let's get it rolling here, shall we? And taking a look, first of all, in the major leagues, as the Cincinnati Reds on the reverse run line +1.5 against the Padres. They were in great shape, to quote Tony the Tiger, Scott. They were up 2 runs going into the 9th inning. Oh, no. More 9th inning shenanigans. Eric Hosmer, I know him well, hits a 2-run game-tying home run in the bottom of the 9th. Caratini, what's up, Doc? Hits a walk-off 2-run homer. That is the absolute worst possible outcome. You've got the reverse run line. You've got +1.5. You're the visitor. You think you're in good shape. What's the only thing that can hurt you, Scott? The only thing that can hurt you?
A walk-off home run with guys on base.
A walk-off home run with guys in base, or guys on base. Well, guys, why don't you give up one of those? Congratulations. Padres win that game 6-4. If you got the Reds +1.5, you have a worthless piece of paper in your hands, and it is time for you to call the cops.
See, it was even worse. I actually accidentally I misspoke before when I put something on the actual sheet. They were down 2 going into the 9th, scored 4 runs in the top of the 9th just to give you even more false hope than you already had, and then they blew the game.
Oh, outstanding.
So it hurt even more than what we had originally on the list.
Whoa, that's not good. In Cincinnati, they've got, what have they got? That's it. Then they've got the Reds and no other sports, right?
Pretty much. You have the Bengals, and that's a loss.
Oh, they've got the Bengals. That's right.
I was going to say that's a lost cause.
I'm sorry, I forgot about the bill. They have Skyline Chili too. Scott, you ever had Skyline Chili?
I have not, but I'm assuming it's delicious.
You know what? It is. People that love it, they love it, man. But it's a lot of cinnamon and cardamom in there. It's really sweet.
Mhm.
Don't care for it.
Okay, well,
As
it's
an aside.
also an even worse beat because since the Reds were actually down 2-0 going into the ninth, if they only scored one run, you would have won also.
Yes.
So you had a lot of different ways to win it, and you did not. But looking at the next Call the Cops one, this is a play in women's basketball taking place between the Connecticut Sun and the Chicago Sky. If you didn't know that those two teams existed, I don't blame you, but I have bet on the WNBA before. Either way, if you had the under 155.5, you were in very good shape, and then you weren't because you had 10 points in the final 79 seconds. Game landed 156. So you just needed to avoid a last-minute flurry there, and you did not, and the game went over by a hook.
Oh, there. That feels more on brand, Scott. Not only do we get people get their brains beat in by the guys, they get their brains beat in by the women. We are nothing if not an equal opportunity distributor around here of misery. I guess we could say that, right?
Or joy whenever they actually have an easy winner, but
That's true.
in this case, misery.
All right, so we're going to talk about one here, and this is an interesting play because some people kind of got hosed the other way. It was the Brewers-Rockies first 5 total. Now, Scott, I had this as a premium play, and we had it at 5. Now, you found it offshore. There were some spots that did have it at 5.5. So we're going to go with the over 5.5 as a tough beat. They put up the Rockies put up 5 runs in the bottom of the first. All you need is one more run for the victory, or in my case, one more run to beat me and my clients.
In Coors Field.
What's that?
In Coors Field, 4 innings to score 1 run.
At Coors Field, a little bit of a breeze blowing out to center field. Yeah, it's about 90 degrees. Absolutely. And they put up Scott, 0 runs for the next 5 innings. It ends 5-zip in the bottom of the 5th. So if you had the over 5.5 there, oofta, it's time for you to call the cops. And Scott, it was even worse because it was kind of a bad beat on the under, and I'll tell you why. I watched the game. I was watching it, and what happened, the Rockies come up, it's an out, base hit, out, ground ball behind second base, shortstop dives, comes up with it. All he's got to do is that little side hand flip to second base for the 3rd out of the inning. Can't get it out of his glove. First and second. So now Woodruff is mad about the whole situation. He walks the next guy. Now he's really mad, and he comes up and he gives up a grand slam. And then he's really, really mad. He gives up a home run to the guy right behind him. Bob's your uncle, bottom of the 1st. 5 runs, should have been 0. Just saying.
Well, either way, at least you got a push out of it.
Whine more, mister. Whine more. Okay, very good. All right, Scott. Now, the opposite side of that, these are the nice, easy wins. These are the ones where you had no doubt it was over early, and it never got worse. No shenanigans, no epic come-from-behind victories, no bottom of the 9th heroics. It was just a nice, easy rocking chair win.
So, first one we're going to talk about is in baseball, and it involves the Arizona Diamondbacks. I wonder why. You look at the actual spot against the Giants, and they cruise. If you had them on the run line at around minus 105 or even money, you had a nice, easy winner. Giants were up 3-0 in the second, 4-0 in the third, 5-0 in the fourth, 6-0 in the fifth. I'm sensing a bit of a trend here. And Arizona did score 2 runs. I'm proud of them. Scored 2 in the 7th.
Oh, here they come, coming back.
And said, you know what? We don't need them. You take those 2 runs right back. And the Giants scored 2 in the 7th and 2 in the 8th. The Giants won by a score of 10-3. So whether you had the Giants on the run line or even the over in this spot, nice and easy. And that is why it's also a quick shout out to the Diamondbacks, because they accomplished something historic for all their own reasons. They ended up setting the all-time record for the most consecutive road losses by an MLB team ever. Congrats to you guys. Really, really proud. Didn't they brought out the champagne for that in the locker room?
I know. I think the Miami Dolphins players, for whatever reason, probably drank champagne. No, I don't know, Scott. What was it? We talked about it yesterday. Did we talk about which 2 teams were tied?
No, I speculated it might have been the Cleveland Spiders, but I had no confidence.
It was not. I saw, but it was somebody maybe from like the early teens and then maybe the 30s. I saw it today, and I don't remember what it was. But if any of those guys are left, those are the guys that are drinking champagne right there.
They
Those
basically
guys,
had already had the record for about the last 80 years, and now they
right.
decided, you know what? Let's unify the thing.
We're finally off the hook. We're finally off the hook. Congratulations to the Arizona Diamondbacks. And Scott, you talk about a hot ticket, both figuratively and literally. The Arizona Diamondbacks now return home. Woo! Feel that Diamondback fever. Do you have Diamondback fever? No, it's just 125. I'm sorry. Everybody feels like that.
It's not a fever. You're just closer to having a seizure. It's that hot out.
Have you been to the Southwest? You've been to Vegas in the summer? Been to Phoenix?
I've been to Vegas when it was about 110, I want to say.
Oh, April then?
I think it was closer to July or August.
I'm sure. It's a dry heat though, right?
That's what they tell me.
You know what else is a dry heat?
It's a dry heat. If it's a dry heat, I don't want to know what a moist heat is. It is a lot to handle. I'll tell you that much.
It's absolutely brutal. So, Scott, if you had the Chicago Cubs, New York Mets under 7.5, you had a little bit of a sweat here at the beginning. It didn't start very well for you. Baez came up. He hits third in the order. He immediately hit a 2-run homer, Scott. Bingo, bango, before you even sit down and get out of the beer line. Cubs are up 2-zip at the top of the one, and you've got the under. This isn't looking good. But you know what, Scott? They did a nice job, because if you missed that, if you had to hit the restroom, if you were in line for a hot dog, you pretty much missed the entire game, because that was all the scoring there was. Cubs win it 2-zip. Cubs win. Cubs win. Cubs win. Yikes.
And the last one was in basketball between the Nets and the Bucks. If you had the under 221 in that game, very, very easy. When you only have one quarter that has more than 48 points, you're in good shape for an under to cash.
Yep.
38 points in the third quarter. So they came out at halftime and said, whatever was working offensively, let's not do that, because both teams
stop doing that.
Both teams scored exactly 19 points apiece, and the game landed 193. So if you had the under and it went under by a pretty decent margin there, by about 28 points, you had a nice, easy rocking chair visit.
That was a nice game. That was one that I had for my clients. So yeah, we'll take 1-0-1 every day, Scott. I'm not gonna lie. That's just fine. And what was your play of the day for your free play of the day over there on the YouTubes? What'd you have?
I had the Bucks first half -3.5.
That's right. That was a fine play. And of course, you know what I had, right?
Yeah, you had the player prop. You're the player prop extraordinaire.
That's right. I am on an unbelievable heater with my player props.
Yeah.
We had Giannis points, rebounds, and assists under, and I capped it at 53. The number today was actually 51.5. Scotty gets to 50, about 4 minutes left. What do?
They pulled him.
Pulled him. I kept thinking that was going to happen, man. When the fourth quarter, when they stretched that lead, I'm like, oh, come on now, get him out of there. And of course, finally, I see the lineup and I see them all on the floor. Like, wait a minute, I don't see a 34. He's done. So yeah, catch that check as well.
Rebound and it's a Kumbo. No. It's Thanasis. You're good. It's the other one. It's the other one. That's how you know the game's over.
It was so great, and he got to 17 rebounds. I think 3 of them were on one play there in the fourth quarter.
I was shocked that it took so long for the Nets to pull everybody, because they're looking at the clock and there's like 6 minutes to go. They're down 17, and then it's 5 minutes and they're still down 17. And Nash just goes, "All right, time to clear house." I'm like, you could have cleared house at the start of the fourth quarter. Like they weren't going to win the game.
They should have followed the strategy you thought they would, which was if they got down, they would just give up.
Yeah,
they didn't. They should have.
I know that we talked about how it's not ethical in basketball or any sport to kind of wave the white flag so prematurely, but Durant played well. Harden actually looked decent, considering the fact he can't move, but I believe he had 16 points. But at some point, you just had to realize it just wasn't in the cards.
Just wasn't in the cards. Ooh, I see what you did there, Scott. You kind of did a little tie-in to our news story.
Yep.
So this is one of those news stories that's kind of like an onion, because it has a lot of layers to it. So yesterday was big news because, well, if you live in Texas, if you follow the Dallas Mavericks, it was big news. Rick Carlisle resigned as coach of the Mavericks. Of course, a couple days earlier, GM Donnie Nelson was fired simply for having the name of Donnie in his mid-50s. That's absolutely no reason for that, Scott. Mark Cuban's new guy He's the number 2 guy, and this is the guy that supposedly had a whole lot of input as far as draft picks, transactions, and Scott, even starting lineups that he would dictate to Coach Rick Carlisle. And it's kind of an interesting situation because Scott, the guy, his background is
He's a gambler.
He's a professional gambler, Scott. He beat the NBA in the late 90s by figuring out trends with coaches. He then took a beating, developed an analytical model for victory, and came back and started beating the NBA. Again, with his new analytical model, he was hired by an unnamed NBA coach in 2009 to be a consultant, and he's pretty much been a consultant ever since. So, Scott, there is hope for you. I'm so sorry that every time you call for an NBA coach to be fired, I give you a hard time, speaking as if you have no voice or no intricate knowledge that would lead you to be able to make such decisions. I stand corrected. Apparently, a background as a professional gambler is sufficient to become an NBA consultant. Congratulations.
Well, I'll have you know that I did numerous franchise modes in the NBA video games over the years in my childhood. So I've won numerous championships in my career.
I'm not now, Scott. You have a fair amount of hubris. I would say every gambler has to have a fair amount of hubris when you have to pay those bills, and you don't have a day job. So you have to have a lot of self-belief. But this guy perhaps takes it to the new level. Here's a quote, Scott. The whole process of becoming a highly successful gambler has led me to believe that I'd be able to put together a better team than almost any general manager in the league, if not maybe all. Ooh, somebody is just a little bit full of themselves. I'm sorry. Of course, deep down, Scott, do you believe that as well?
Regarding this guy or regarding anybody?
No, regarding yourself. Do you believe that given the time, given an office, 12 hours a day and all the resources they have, that you would be able to put together a better basketball roster than most GMs?
I wouldn't say that it would be an elite roster because I think a lot of it's luck. It also depends on where you're playing because you have to attract a bunch of free agents most likely, and you got to have some type of appeal there. I actually think I'd do a decent job. Hook, line, and sinker. I actually think I do a decent job.
I knew you were going to say it. I knew it.
I'm not saying that I'm not telling any other NBA GM I would do a better job than you. That's not what I'm saying. I do.
That's kind of what you're saying.
No, I think
how are you not?
I would not. I put it this way: I wouldn't embarrass myself with the job.
Okay.
Like, would I get fired? Maybe. But I do think if I had a position, I actually had all the resources that you said. I had a team of guys that I could trust. Whatever. There's no reason to think that I would finish in the bottom 5 teams in the league. I think I'd hang around. I'll tell you what, the team that I would run would still have more direction than the Sacramento Kings. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yes. You absolutely answered my question.
Do you think I would have any shot of not embarrassing myself, of not being – it's not a matter of being good or bad, just actually not creating an absolute catastrophe?
Well, just in case we have different ideas of what's embarrassing, what do you consider an embarrassing record?
I would say an embarrassing record is finishing bottom 3 in either conference.
Okay. So by default, then you're saying you are better than 6 current GMs.
I can't fully say that because the Thunder purposefully tried to lose. I actually think Presti's a great GM, but there were a couple really bad ones out there.
Okay. All right. Very good. And it's a gambler's dream. I'm not gonna lie to you, Scott. I know I just absolutely roasted you there, and I will.
It wasn't even roasting. It's all just fun banter, but
it's all just fun banter. No, and it is, and I will do a mea culpa because I probably believe the same thing. Maybe not basketball. I'm not intuitive about basketball, but if you give me a baseball or a football roster, yes, there are definite general managers that I believe I could do a better job if I had their resources.
I think basketball would probably be the best sport, or the sport that I'd have the best chance of doing relatively well with.
It does seem to have the lowest bar. Budenholzer, 2-time coach of the year, not once but twice.
Wayne Casey won a coach of the year. He got fired during the off season. There's a lot of questionable awards and people in power and public perception regarding some people and executives. But I think NBA, I somewhat know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I agree.
I wouldn't have traded for Porzingis, I'll tell you that much.
Well, of course, you got a front row seat up there when he played with the Knicks. You got to see a lot of Porzingis games, or a lot of games where Porzingis was sitting on the bench because he was hurt.
Yes, but I believe this guy was a member of the organization when they traded for Porzingis.
Right, and he kind of pushed for that trade. So let me ask you, Scott. They've lost their GM, they've lost their coach. We'll just bring it back to seriousness here and talk about how it relates to maybe future prices on the Dallas Mavs. There's a lot of things that are really attractive about that job. You've got an owner that's willing to spend money. You've got first-class facilities. You've got a 22-year-old that may be a top 3 basketball player in the world. A lot to like. Are they going to be able to attract top-notch talent that's going to go work for Jimmy the Greek?
Well, you also got to remember that Dallas always attracts free agents to some degree because of the magical no income tax in Texas.
That's true.
Also another point.
There's no state income tax.
Yeah, no state income tax is what I meant. So
Right.
The point is that you have some players who might say, well, I'd make 20 extra million if I stayed here. And then you realize, wait a second, you call up the accountant, you make sure how everything's going. We'd actually make more money if we went to Dallas because we wouldn't pay taxes on any of this stuff. So that's another type of plus when it comes to being a member of Dallas or at least playing in the state of Texas.
As long as you're not picky about having heat all through the winter or air conditioning in the summer only when it gets hot, then Texas sounds like a great place.
It's trade-offs because you have the weather, but you also have good steakhouses. So, you get to pick and choose what you want. But I do think they'll get some players. It is not exactly the greatest free agency class in this upcoming offseason.
Right.
So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But I would want to play with Doncic if I was a potential, I wouldn't say a great veteran. Like if I was let's say hypothetically like I don't want to say LeBron, but one of these guys who's been around the block a couple times wanted to maybe go somewhere. I think they'd pick somewhere a little bit more proven. Doncic still has a little bit to go. But like if you had a Jason Tatum who was hypothetically on the board or something like that,
right?
I think anybody that age group would love to play with Doncic.
So let's speak about it from a coach and GM standpoint there. As long as Vulgaris, that's the gambler's name, as long as Vulgaris, of course he had to be the evil Eastern European, as long as he's on the staff, are you able to attract top-tier talent to your coaching and GM position? This is a guy that had input on daily lineups. What coach is going to stand for that, Scott?
Not many. It reminds me of Moneyball when you had Philip Seymour Hoffman. I forgot the name of the actual Art Shelton. That wasn't the name of the manager? What was the name of the manager?
Art Howe.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, but anyway, point is that you had Billy Beane, who was the GM, who kept saying, you're going to use Hattenberg at first base, you're going to bench Carlos Pena, and you're going to like it. And the manager goes, shut your mouth, I've been doing this a long time. You got to stay in your lane. It's the same situation, isn't it?
No, it's not, because one's a general manager. You're supposed to have.
No, I mean, I get it's different because this guy's a gambler with I'm just saying, in principle, a non-manager or coach having say in who's going to be starting.
Yeah, that's true. The managers should have the feel, and he should know the numbers and how these guys match up and all that. And to be overridden, I just don't know who's going to stand for that as a basketball coach.
One thing also you got to keep in mind is you've had 2 runs with this guy, or 2.5, 3, whatever, and you've not made it past the first round.
Right.
So I don't know how much longer you can actually rely on this guy giving you feedback. Plus, I mentioned the Porzingis stuff and how I wouldn't have traded for him was a slight jab at this guy because he apparently wanted Porzingis a lot. Yeah. They got him, and that has turned into an absolute disaster of a deal.
Not a good deal at all. So, we'll keep an eye on that and keep an eye on the Dallas price going forward, because it would be a shame to let Luka Doncic and his talent go to waste.
Yeah, I don't think the players care. I think if they get a chance to play with Luka and they want to, they'll do it. And
I'm sure there's some coaches that they don't want to play for. I'm sure there are guys on the I won't play for you list.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I just don't, it may not be a fit for everybody with every coach, but yeah, I think for anybody that looks at that talent knows that, that's a once in a generation kind of deal. So you definitely want to play with Luka for sure.
That's how I look at it. As for the actual gambler guy, the players probably don't care, but you also got to
No.
wonder how much longer that guy's leash actually is if they keep losing early in the playoffs.
Well, and if he keeps having confrontations with Luka, because I guess during the playoffs, Luka was kind of upset or something, and the gambler was sitting. He has a front row seat with his laptop open, and he gives him the hands down to calm down sign. And I guess I'm going to spare everybody the colorful language, but Luka, let's just say, didn't care for that.
That's fair. I mean, he's a franchise player, and you're a random guy who has a courtside seat.
Right. You know, if Chris Rock tells you to chill, do you really care?
I like Chris Rock, but I would not particularly care.
All right, very good. So, Scott, I know this is kind of a little closer to home for you. Big tennis guy, Rafael Nadal, is withdrawn from Wimbledon and the Olympics because of that foot injury that we saw pop up there during the French Open, or at least reemerge, whatever. Getting old, Scott. Is he ever going to be the same? Will he ever be the same, Rafa?
Well, I'm not surprised he's missing Wimbledon, because I believe I said on air he was probably going to miss Wimbledon about a week ago. Just because when you realize Wimbledon is 2 weeks removed from the French Open, that's not enough time for a guy like Nadal, who relies heavily on his mobility to be successful. You could just tell that he was not going to be in Wimbledon. The Olympic Games surprised me. And I think that's particularly surprising because you look at his age. This might be the last Olympic Games he could possibly have participated in.
Well, he's lucky because he only does have a 3-year gap between the next one.
Correct. And there is a chance he could play older and maybe only play doubles and everything. And Spain will send him if they want to, because he's earned that right. But this really could be the last Olympic Games that Nadal could hypothetically participate in. Yeah. And he might not play. So I found that the biggest surprise of the news story as opposed to Wimbledon. But do I think it'll be the same?
When are the Olympics? Into July?
I believe so, yes.
So, I mean, you're only, 3 weeks after Wimbledon? So.
Well, that also tells you how serious the injury is.
Right.
He's already rolling himself out for a month and change.
Right, agree. And that's kind of why I asked that, where, yeah, missing Wimbledon, not that big of a surprise, but I'm with you. Not going to getting to play for Spain there in the Olympics, I think, is a much bigger shocker.
As for his actual career,
34, Scott.
Well, he's like 42 in tennis prodigy years.
Yeah, no kidding.
He got called up when he was like 16. He's been playing ever since. So it's a lot of mileage over there. But
yeah, I know he played his only Australian Open when he was 17, right? No, that was, never mind.
No, you're thinking
that was Borg.
Yeah. No, but it's like Messi when you see the Messi age and Ronaldo ages, and you're like, how is he only 34? It's like, oh, that's right. He's been playing like high-level soccer since he was like 12. Yeah. Like, oh, yeah, that's right. He's been around for an eternity. But Nadal, I don't think he'll ever be the same. Not just because of this heel injury, but it's mostly because of the fact that once his legs start to give him problems, which they already had, I'd say about a decade ago, before he managed to have a second wind in his career, he's a clay court guy, and we know that. But if you're not going to be able to move around, which is Nadal's number one attribute, or at least move around as well as you had in the past, I got to assume at some point you're going to have some serious problems. Wouldn't you agree?
I would. And he was right in between my two guesses, Scott. He's 35.
Okay.
So
I think he's around the same age as like Messi and Ronaldo, but it's the same idea.
Right in that general wheelhouse. So, all right, well, we'll keep an eye on him going forward. I know that if you go to the U.S. Open, I would assume, Scott, quite a bit.
Yeah, I go almost every year.
Yeah. So, and you've seen Nadal play, I'm sure.
I have. I saw him beat Lajovic in the first round a couple years ago.
Cool. So that'll be fun. Hopefully, he'll be able to play, and you get to see him at least one more time there in Flushing Meadows. Right.
Well, it wasn't even just Nadal, because you also had Osaka, who ended up withdrawing early from the French Open because of more mental anxiety and stuff like that. She also announced that she's not going to be participating in Wimbledon this year. Different reason. I don't really know how much we can actually talk about it because of the fact that it's about her and what she's dealing with mentally. So there's no injury, there's no whatever. I think the only thing that you have to remember or keep in mind is that since there is no disclosed or official physical injury regarding Osaka, I have no idea when she's going to be comfortable coming back. Agreed.
I think everybody's done a pretty good job of understanding that, something wrong mentally is just like something wrong physically, because I mean, it's all it's all physical, Scott, for the most part. It's a chemical imbalance, or there's something, there's a physical reason for mental challenges.
And
So,
also tennis, it could be even more amplified because you're not actually part of a team. You're by yourself out there traveling all the time.
yep.
You have
Yep.
a coach, you have a couple of rally partners, but when you're actually talking about anxiety, you can't rely on anybody else. It is just you out there all the time with all the eyes on you.
Right. And you say, you talk about things where good percentage of people have anxiety, a good percentage of people, aren't comfortable in crowds. That doesn't automatically go away when you get famous and start making money.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see it with rock bands a lot. You'll see guys that had problems before, and all of a sudden they become rich and famous. Kurt Cobain's a great example. Somebody that obviously wasn't well then became famous and wealthy, and those problems don't go away. And in many cases, they're just exacerbated. So I think, if people on Twitter would calm down, that'd be fantastic. But I think for the most part, everybody's been pretty understanding with Osaka, and hopefully that's opened the door for other athletes to be, more honest about things that are going on and get some help.
Yep, I agree.
All right, Scott. So what are you, Generation Z? What are you? I don't know. You're not a millennial. You're just turned 24. So what generation are you?
I got no idea. I was born in 97. Does that help you?
It doesn't, because I have twins are the same age. I have no idea what they are. So I know they would tell you, but I say that to say this, Scott. Do you or your friends enjoy sitting down and watching a 3-hour and 15-minute baseball game?
Not particularly.
Does anybody will they sit and watch a game unless they go and then you go for a social outing or whatever? But do your friends just sit and watch baseball?
Unless they're diehard Yankees or Mets fans, no.
See, that's the thing. So do you think baseball needs to do something?
I don't know I know that you're asking this because you have some ideas, which we'll get into in a second, but some of it involves the nature of the sport and the level of competition. People find basketball and hockey more entertaining than baseball. If baseball was on by itself, which it is during August, right around that gap there, I'm sure baseball ratings improve. But if we're talking about in this little window that we have, why would anyone watch a regular season game in baseball over playoff hockey or playoff basketball?
Well, Scott, there's a team that may have some ideas that may help Major League Baseball. Can I introduce you to the Savannah Bananas, Scott? Are you familiar with the Savannah Bananas? They play in the Coastal Plain League.
That's my favorite league.
It's a league for college players. It is a wood bat league. It's similar to the wood bat league that Bryce Harper played at coming out of high school instead of going to college. But they do a little bit different, the Savannah Bananas. First of all, Scott, you're in for a different situation because every game they have a baby that they wrap in the banana. They have a banana swaddling whatever, and then they hold the baby up while the music from Lion King plays as they introduce the baby to the world. That's how the evening starts for the Savannah Bananas. But they have...
I don't know why the MLB hasn't considered doing that. I mean, that would easily improve ratings.
I would do that. I would watch that in a heartbeat. But they've got some interesting rules, Scott. All right, you ready? We're gonna go through them right here. If you step out of the batter's box, it's a strike. If you attempt to bunt, it's an ejection. Mound visits are not prohibited. Games are limited to 2 hours. Here's my favorite. If a fan catches a foul ball, Scott, it's an out. It is an out. Each inning exists as its own entity. It starts, the scoreboard starts over at the top of an inning. Whoever wins that inning gets 1 point. First 1 to 5 points is your victor. Hitters can steal first base on a wild pitch at any time in an at-bat, Scott. They can just take off if the ball gets away from the catcher. And last but not least, I got 2. Walks. After the 4th ball, the batter immediately begins sprinting around the bases. The defense can't do anything until all 9 players have touched the baseball. And finally, no extra innings, Scott. If there is a tie, the field empties. You have only the pitcher, the catcher, and a batter. The pitcher either records a strikeout or or has to chase the ball in play and get it home before his opponent sprints around the bases. I say implement every one of these rules in Major League Baseball tomorrow.
Now, for reference, by the way, this is kind of like a Harlem Globetrotter-ish approach.
They do it 4 times a season. They're doing it. They're playing 2 games on the road that way. They're playing 2 games at home. Everything else they play straight.
Yeah, so it's not like an every game situation. This is just a fun promotion that.
Well, I think they present the baby every game. I think that's it.
Fair. But
I'm just saying.
The point is that it's not even just like following these suggestions. We brought it up because we know baseball's ratings in the past have not exactly been great. So baseball's mid-season. I know that on this show, we're even guilty of it. We don't really spend much time talking about baseball because we got other sports in playoff form. Yep. And then we give about 5 minutes or so of baseball. Of course, it's going to change as the playoffs wrap up. But the point is, baseball's kind of, I don't want to say last on people's checklist for sports, but it's probably 3rd highest right now.
Yeah, if you're a hockey fan, baseball is probably 4th. So don't want to spend a lot of time on it. Scott, we usually try to have stories with kind of a sports betting angle or spin on them. That doesn't have it. I really just wanted to read those list of rules for America.
I think the one rule that I actually think would have appeal to it, I'm not sure how you could implement it. I love the idea of a 2-hour cap on a game, or like 2.5. Now, I don't know how you'd actually go about doing it, but I think the main issue that people have with baseball is the fact that you have so many just stoppages and just every single pitch feels like Giannis at the free throw line. We're just waiting there for 30 seconds at a time.
Here's how you do it. No mound visits. Nobody steps out of the batter's box. Nobody bunts. That's how you keep it to 2 hours. And when somebody wins an inning, obviously, Scott, as soon as the home team goes ahead at the bottom of the inning, it's over. It's over.
Wouldn't bunting be better for a faster game because it's just a guaranteed out most of the time?
Well, you're
just bunting, which is barely done anymore anyway. But I do think if baseball wants to get a bigger viewership, they need to cut their games, I don't want to say in half, but 2.5 hours, keep it around the same length as a basketball game or a hockey game. I think that's what's going to potentially win you a few more fans. Because if you're sitting there for 3.5 hours and it's still the 8th inning, a lot of people don't want to sit through that kind of torture.
You're absolutely right. I think the only ones that maybe have that baseball would even consider would be something to limit the times you can step out of the batter's box and perhaps limit mound visits even more than they are already doing right now. So, all right, Scott, let's talk some playoff hockey, shall we? Quick reminder, everybody, you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour, and we will talk about the Savannah Bananas for 15 minutes. No, I'm kidding. Give us an hour. We'll give you the winners, and that's exactly what we're fitting to do right now. Scott, one hockey game on the card. It is the Golden Knights hitting the road up there to take on the Canadiens. Still, the Golden Knights big favorites right here. It opened up at -176. It has come down a little bit, Scott, as starting to see about -160, 162, somewhere around there. So a little bit of Canadiens money. Of course, it opened up at 5.5, and the total quickly opened up at 5, and it is still at 5, juiced heavily to the over. Scott, do you agree with the over trend, and do you agree with the Canadiens trend?
Yes, I agree on both those moves. Now, I ended up cashing with Montreal plus 1.5 goals in game 2, and they won outright. We said going into the series that Vegas was around -500, and we thought it was an absolute joke.
Ridiculous.
We thought Vegas would win the series, but we thought Montreal was a good enough team and a fundamentally sound team, fundamentally sound enough to make Vegas work for it. And I believe we both had Vegas in either 6 or 7.
That's kind of how it worked out, yes.
So I am not surprised that it's 1-1. And now you have a pretty interesting situation for Vegas because you saw Montreal performed in their first trip to America during this season because they were in Canada the entire time. Now Vegas has to travel to Canada for the first time this season. I don't know how that's going to go. Is it going to matter? Maybe not, because hockey home ice means absolutely nothing in most situations.
Well, it doesn't mean nothing, but it doesn't have the impact that it does in others.
It doesn't mean a lot. But the point I'm trying to say is that it's mostly an impact for traveling because I do have to wonder how Vegas is going to adjust to being in a different country for the first time this season.
Well, I don't know. That sounds a little dramatic. They're going to an entirely different country.
Well, I mean, it is the first time they've been in Canada to play a game all year.
I know, but it's Montreal. It's not backwoods somewhere in Siberia.
No, but I mean like the jet lag aspect of it, having to fly like hours and hours and stuff like that. I just do think it brings some unique, I'd say, challenges to the Golden Knights. Now, as for the actual line, I understand why Vegas is favored, because Vegas is still the more talented hockey team. We talked about this before we broke down the actual series. Having said that, I like Montreal in this spot. And I do think that Montreal, even though Vegas almost came back at the end to force overtime in game 2, Montreal's really hung in there for those 2 games. And I think that these teams are a lot more even than the odds makers still indicate. Now, will there be more money on Vegas? Of course, because everyone in Vegas is going to bet on the Golden Knights.
Vegas, baby.
So I wouldn't bet on Montreal now. I'd wait it out. But if you're asking me, do I think Montreal at home with Price and net after Fleury struggled in game 2 and after Montreal really gave Vegas' defense some problems in both games of this series? Fleury stood in his head in game 1. I think Montreal is very live.
Yeah, I agree. You're catching Montreal somewhere in the neighborhood of a plus 1.5 or 150. And like you said, that's just going to go up, I would guess. That's usually the way Golden Knights in the games go. So we'll see how that continues. But I think the Canadians are being disrespected for a team that's at home, tied it up 1-1. They've shown they can hang with Vegas all day long, and they should not. Again, I see why Vegas is a favorite. I think they should be somewhere in the minus 125, minus 130 range.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit too low. I'd probably say minus 140 because the talent disparity is still there, but I do think Price is just better than Fleury.
Okay. All right, very good. So let's talk a little NBA, shall we, Scott?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. Well, we've got, of course, the 2 games tomorrow. It is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks. Sixers 3-point favorite, pretty much where it stands right now, 221. A little bit of over money. You're starting to see 221.5 starting to creep in. Scott, you want to pick a side on this one?
Do I want to pick a side on this one? It's an excellent question. Can I get Atlanta once they're down 15?
That'd be the time to strike. But even those prices are going to be affected because of what's happened the last 2 games. So Atlanta gets down double digits like that. You'd see, plus 800 or something. It's going to be 450.
I actually don't know about that because I feel like some of them are software based. I don't know if they have case examples or case exceptions. They might just price it where they would normally price a team that's down a certain amount. I actually don't even know. I really don't know. I kind of want to do a research on that.
You're right on that, would you?
I don't know right on it, but I'll get on it at some point. But anyway, I got to figure out how I'm going to plan an NBA franchise. But anyway, looking at this spot here, I'll go Philly first half. I'm going to do the same logic I had for Milwaukee yesterday, and it worked out.
Can't blow a lead unless you have one.
Correct. And Philly's really, really good at blowing leads because they've done it 2 games in a row. But you looked at the first half, Embiid, his entire career, he is really, really good until he falls off a cliff once he gets exhausted. His fatigue has been an issue all season long, all career long. Now, I'm giving him a bit of a pass this year because he's basically on one leg. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you know Embiid when he's fully energized, can get you 25 in the first half in his sleep, I got to take Philly in the first half. So I'll go 76ers first half. As for the full game, I feel like Philly's going to win, but Doc Rivers continues to amaze me, so I'm not going to bother. You have any thoughts?
I'm done letting this Philly team disappoint me. I'm done.
You're taking matters into your own hands.
Yep, I am. I'm taking Atlanta. I'm taking the points. Scott, we've talked a little bit about this before. Do you believe in momentum?
I do.
Okay. So do the Hawks have momentum right now?
It would definitely appear that way.
Well, it's an honest question because they've had to come back in such spectacular fashion that The Sixers have shown they can outplay them for 3/4 of the game.
They have all the momentum. They've won back-to-back games, coming back from 15-plus down, and they're at home in Atlanta for Game 6. They have all the momentum.
Okay, give me the points then. That's fine. I'll take it. I'll take Atlanta the points. I'm done fighting Philly. I've moved on from Pat and Gino's. Give me the Varsity. You ever been to the Varsity, Scott?
I have not.
It's a huge drive-in restaurant where they.
Nice.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Good time. If you're ever in Atlanta, definitely go there.
But as for the full game, I'm not touching the side because it can go either way. But I do like Philly first half, and I do like the under because at some point, one of these offenses are going to fall apart. It's been the case in pretty much every game after Game 1, right?
It has, Scott. It has. So, yeah, that's a.
Is there anything better than having the under and seeing Ben Simmons going to the line for his 15th free throw of the night?
That is absolutely fantastic. That is just. How can you be that bad at so many point guard things and be an all-star?
Well, he thought he deserved Defensive Player of the Year, and Trae Young scored 39 on him in the last game.
Roasted him.
I don't know what to tell you, man. Simmons is a good player. He's not a great player.
No, you don't look for defense first in a point guard. I'm sorry. That's just not the way that works. That's not how
it back in 1990, but nowadays you have to be able to score at least, I'd say, I don't want to say 15, but I think tentatively speaking, 15 is a decent way to describe.
12 to 15 with what? 7 dimes a game?
Yeah, give or take. And I'd say shooting numbers wise, probably 35+% from the 3-point line.
Hey, yeah, knock down a 3 every once in a while, buddy.
That's a fair number. 35, I think that's a little bit too high.
No, 35%?
Yeah, I think for an
NBA guard,
I'd say the floor should be around a third of your threes. The floor.
It should be the floor for any NBA player.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let alone a guard. Any guard should make 35% or better.
Yeah, and Simmons is not even just for threes. He also just can't shoot a mid-range jump shot.
You'd think a potential GM would know that, Scott.
The only one who knows is the one with the gambling background.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the West. The Jazz, and the Clippers. I'll do that every time.
You got to do the Jazz hands every time.
Absolutely do. This game opened up Jazz -2 as the road favorite. We've seen that come down. Scott is now 1.5, or we're even starting to see some ones money coming in on the hometown Clippers to close it out against the Jazz. You believe in that, Scott?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the injury news because in addition to Conley still being questionable, there are some serious questions about Donovan Mitchell's ankle. And he's questionable for Game 6. Is he going to play?
Yes.
I would say yes.
Yes.
But according to Donovan Mitchell, he does acknowledge that the ankle has caused a lack of explosiveness, and he's addressed it. It's not the same degree as Harden with the hamstring injury, but it's not good. And I don't know if Conley's going to come back or not, but Mitchell was the main equalizer that Utah had because regardless of how many points Kawhi and Paul George are going to score, first couple games in the series, you can pencil Mitchell in for about 35 guaranteed. And he was awful last game, and Utah lost. But you have Paul George by himself because Kawhi's officially ruled out.
Right.
So I don't really know how to even approach this game. Of course, Mitchell's going to play, but the question is he going to be able to do really anything? And I don't know the answer to that.
Well, if Utah has any prayer, he better be able to do something. He better be able to do a lot.
I think he realistically needs to score at least, I'd say, 25 points of them to win this game.
Oh, yes. Yeah, in the first half.
Well, okay.
I think he has to be, because I don't know where the help's coming from, Scott. I think he has to be almost a minimum of 35. Certainly.
That's fair.
The other question about this is whether Conley's going to play or not. And if he does play, of course, we've played this game literally before every game about Conley being on the list as far as being questionable with that hamstring, and then on the day of the game, shortly before game time, he is officially ruled out. My gut tells me that's what's going to happen again in this one, but maybe he gives it a shot. But Scott, we've seen what difference a hamstring makes as far as your lift, your explosiveness, and everything like that. What percentage, if Conley goes, how much of an impact does he have?
Not much. I think he would provide veteran leadership and the ability to facilitate, but assuming he's at, I'll be generous, 70%,
Okay.
I think you're probably looking at 13 points.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably close. I was going to say 60%, so I was curious to see what number you were on there, but yeah, I agree. So
I said I was being generous. I was going to say 65, but 70 I think is peaking.
so all things considered, knowing what we know right now, that we don't have any additional information going to the window, where's your ticket on this game?
I have no damn idea.
Okay. All right. Good chat.
I know you want me to make a stance because, that's what we get paid to do, but
Give us an hour and we will give you indifferent opinions where we can.
It is so difficult to find an actual spot for this game because the Clippers have the momentum that you mentioned. They're going back to LA, but this team is psychotic.
Right. Well, you think
I don't really know what else you want me to say.
You talk about all these incredible feats that the duo has done between Leonard and George, and all of a sudden one of them is gone. So you're like, well, okay, this team is not going to do well. And they come out last game in a road game and absolutely curb stomp the Utah.
I also mean the first series as well. They couldn't win a home game until Game 7 against Dallas. And Dallas, we roasted earlier. I don't think Dallas had a good roster compared to the Clippers, at least.
No, not as far as depth goes.
And it still went to 7, and they couldn't win a home game. So would it shock me if Utah wins this game? No, it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
But I would feel a lot better about taking Utah if Mitchell did not have the ankle issue. That's what the holdup is for me.
Really? You don't think he's given us a little bit of the old okey doke there, Scott?
I do not. I think that if you watched him play in Game 5, you could tell there is something up.
Okay. All right, good enough. Now, I've got a premium play on the side, so I'm going to avoid that one, and I know you're going to avoid it because you can't make up your mind. Thoughts on the total?
It's under a pass for me. I know that the last game was high scoring, but with Mitchell being injured and Kawhi being out, unless both teams go nuts from 3,
which is always a possibility.
Which is always a possibility because Utah in the first half shot about 65%, and then everything fell apart. Or for the first quarter and a half, they shot about 65%, and they cooled off dramatically. But the Clippers are the best 3-point shooting team in the league in the regular season, and I'm gonna go with the under. You?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. They
that's the risk you run, though, and I acknowledge that if they hit their threes, this game will go over. But I just think with the injuries that we talked about, there's no way I can bet the over in this spot.
Yeah, I'm really torn here because they didn't shoot all that great from 3 at the end of the day. They shot 40 and 37% respectively. Utah shot,
well, they just attempted a bunch of them.
Clippers shot a little better. Yeah, they did. They put up a ton. So, you know what? I'm going to fade you there. I kind of came in thinking under would be the play. I'm gonna take the over.
Okay.
I'm going to do.
I mean, you can tell how confident I was in the under. Like, yeah, you can fade whatever you want. I'm not thrilled on the under.
I know. All right, so let's take a look. In the world of baseball, Scott, we've got to baseball. We've got a few minutes left, as we usually do. So let's take a look at some of our favorite games on the board. Who you got? Let's start with this Atlanta team. Max Fried going up against Carlos Martinez. Carmar. I should have just stopped at that, right?
Yep.
But he is currently the Atlanta Braves big favorite here. Scott opened to -175. There's been a little bit of Braves money coming in. It's now up to -180, -185. St. Louis, they're dropping like a stone, but is there any value at that price?
I think you can make an argument for it. Now, I know Atlanta did win yesterday, even though I mentioned there was value on St. Louis. I'm just looking at the price, and do I really think Fried should be 175?
That's the thing. He's been better, but he was certainly inconsistent early in the season. Now he has come back and been better.
And Carmar's been inconsistent like crazy as well. So I'm
mostly
really
bad
on this actual spot. I think if I was going to play it, I would go with Atlanta team total over.
I don't hate that because you're going to get it at 5.5. So
I'm just not. Carmar's been a guy who I've been trying to lobby for a little bit. He had a bit of a good run. I don't know what to expect. And Atlanta at home is a very, very good offensive team.
So, Scott, the first half of perhaps the best tandem in baseball went down in flames yesterday as Brandon Woodruff, like we said, gave up 5 runs in the first inning. He's followed by Robin today. Corbin Burns is going up against Anthony Senzatella for the Colorado Rockies. Scott, Rockies are a big dog once again right here.
You're going to have to talk me off this ledge because I really like Colorado and Colorado plus 1.5.
They're a monster at home. They're a fantastic team at home. Something happens to those pitchers when they go up there and they throw those breaking balls. And, if you're playing Milwaukee, you go to Colorado once a year, and that's it. And you didn't go last year. So 19 was the last time they were there, and they forget how much fun that is when you throw those breaking balls and they just go flat on you.
That's the thing, is that Burns has an elite slider. Are we sure it's going to actually slide?
That's exactly the question.
But based on the Rockies at home and the Brewers can hit, I think I got to go with the Rockies there. I just think at plus 1.5 at plus 108, that's a great price.
I'm with you. All right, Scott, it is time. It is time as we have reached the end of the show here, as we often do. It's the end of the week. We better make it a good one, Scott. You know what we do? We put our heads together. We come up with our favorite play of the day. In this case, we get the whole weekend to look. So it's our favorite play of the weekend. You had to put all your chips in the middle. If you had to put it all on one game, which we don't recommend, but if you had to, this would be the play for you. It is time once again for Bet the Farm. Scott, how'd we do yesterday?
We had Tampa in the first 5 -0.5, and they were up 1 run going to the 6th. So we had a winner.
No sweat.
Shout out to Tampa, by the way. They lost the game.
They did. They just got walked off in the 9th. Absolutely correct. So, Scott, let's take a look at our Bet the Farm play for today, shall we? This is going to be a game from Saturday, Scott. Saturday night game in the NBA. A couple teams perhaps you've heard of. It is the Bucks and the Nets, Game 7. They're in BKN at the Barclays Center. Scott, we're going to play the under 216. The over has not hit one time in the first 6 games. Got 4 unders and a push.
5 unders and a push.
Or excuse me, 5 unders and a push. Thanks for keeping me square on the tough math. The Nets have no supporting cast besides Durant. They have scored less than 97 points in 3 of their last 4 games. The Bucks have scored less than 108 in 5 of their first 6. Scott, no reason to think any of that changes, especially in a Game 7 where those collars get a little bit tighter, those shots seem a little bit tougher, the basket seems just a little bit more narrow. Scott, for Bet the Farm, it's going to be a Saturday night play between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets. Game 7, under 216.
Yeah, I think one of the things to quickly add is the fact that Harden, since he's injured, he's not really running fast breaks anymore. A lot of slow-paced, methodical offense that eats up a lot of clock.
Good thought. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here this week. As always, come back and see us next time. We do it each and every day. Have a great weekend. From me and Scott, we'll see you next time on Winners and Whiners Radio.